Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah, Randy.
Since we founded Bombas, we've always said our socks, underwear, and T-shirts are super soft. Any new ideas?
Maybe sublimely soft.
Or disgustingly cozy.
Wait, what?
I got it. Bombas. Absurdly comfortable essentials for yourself
and for those facing homelessness.
Because one purchased equals one donated.
Wow, did we just write an ad?
Yes.
Bombas. Big comfort for everyone. Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase.
Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Battlefield, part of Waterloo Remembered. The next extract is read by Adam Preston, who works for the Trafalgar Way Initiative, and consists of the recollections of Georges-Marc Nicolas Letin.
The farm of Hougoumont was attacked and was defended by the English. The French infantry was placed entirely at this farm and at La Sainte Alliance, La Haye Sainte, and renewed their attacks. The heavy cavalry division of l'Héritier formed in closed columns, with the men dismounted, stood behind the infantry. They charged the English, who evacuated their positions. At the same time, the English artillery sent some round shot, which fell on our infantry and on the division of l'Héritier, causing confusion among the men and horses. It was decided to charge the line with the cavalry. The English had time to prepare their dispositions for the attack. We moved to the offensive in front of our infantry, which then formed a line between the farms. With no other dispositions, this was a great fault. The squadron formed the head of column of l'Héritier's division and advanced against the infantry. Followed by the other squadrons, due to the distance separating us from the English, it permitted to perform the movement to form square to receive the charge. The squares resolutely awaited the cavalry, and were determined to hold their fire until point-blank range. The infantry's fire had a powerful impact on the cavalry's morale, which was greater than its physical impact on the cavalry, which was never better demonstrated. The coolness of the British infantry was all the more remarkable for the absence of the fusillade, which we were expecting, and that to our great surprise we did not receive, which disconcerted our men. They were then seized with the thought that they were going to be received by a fire that would be much more murderous, from being at point-blank range, and probably to escape such a fire, the first squadron wheeled to the right, and thus decided a similar movement by all the following squadrons. The charge failed, and none of the squadrons rallied till they reached the embattled farm of Sainte Alliance, La Haye Sainte, which, being still occupied by the British, fired upon us, wounded and killing many in an instant. Among those who were wounded were General l'Héritier, who commanded the division, General Piquet, who commanded the brigade, Colonel Leopold, who commanded the 7th Regiment of Dragoons, and 2 squadron commanders of the same regiment. The command of the 7th Regiment of Dragoons passed to Squadron Commander Letang. At the moment they rallied behind Sainte Alliance. Following this event, the Emperor, informed of the danger to our position, ordered that the farm of Sainte Alliance was to be attacked and taken. Ney was placed at the head of the infantry and marched to this post and captured it. From thence the division of L'Héritier ceased to run the gauntlet of murderous fire, which it was long exposed to. Forced to move from their entrenchments, the English moved in disorder from this farm and turned back to the bulk of their army. They then placed the flank of our cavalry against the farm, from which they could charge with success. The fact did not escape the sagacity of Squadron Commander Latang, commanding the 7th Dragoons. He went in person to the head of the 1st Dragoons, actually the 2nd Regiment, which had become the 1st Regiment in 1814, which preceded his regiment, and remarked to the commandant of the 1st Dragoons on the opportunity to charge that presented itself, and gave orders to commence this movement, which, if carried out vigorously with the 7th Dragoons placed in echelons to the right of the 1st Dragoons at the bottom of the slope, they would take the plateau. But the commander of the 1st Dragoons said he had no orders, and did not accept the advice of the commander of the 7th Dragoons. In vain Commandant Latang objected, saying that since the generals were absent and wounded, and that there would be no orders, he was determined not to wait. Unmoved, the commander of the 1st Dragoons remained in his place of battle. The commander of the 7th Dragoons declared he would charge. Quick as lightning, Commandant Latang rejoined his regiment and advanced. Quick as lightning, Commandant Latang rejoined his regiment and advanced at the trot, so as not to tire the horses moving uphill, and to then push the charge home with vigour. But time was lost, and the English infantry, fleeing a few moments before, was reformed, and was supported by fresh troops, which had hastened to meet the charge. Despite this, the charge of the 7th Dragoons succeeded, and the English squares were barely formed when troops marching to their aid were cut down by the sabres. An inconceivable fatality resulting from this annulled the fine exploit. The 1st Dragoons, at the same time as the regiment began its charge, made a retrograde movement to occupy the place the 7th Dragoons had just left. About the motive of this movement, it was certainly not appropriate, because the 7th Dragoons, being engaged with the English, seeing the 1st Dragoons turn around instead of supporting them, believed that our line was turned and gave up the attack on the infantry and had to follow the 1st Dragoons. They then had to rally near where they ceased their retrograde movement. Thus, this unfortunate movement stopped the brilliant success of the charge commanded by Squadron Commander Latang, who has afterwards loudly and energetically pronounced the precipitated retreat which turned his regiment back from the front. The English infantry had received reinforcements and had reformed in good order, while the 7th Dragoons were weakened, because, after breaking ranks of the infantry, many men of this regiment had been able to rally with the 1st Dragoons, and were left in the middle of the squares. He could not usefully attempt another charge. Shortly after, an artillery battery of the Imperial Guard came and stood in front of the 7th Dragoons, and burned in a few minutes all the ammunition they had left. They then began a retrograde movement. When Squadron Commander Latang ordered them to remain in position, where they had come to a halt, telling its commander that by remaining they could make the enemy believe they still had ammunition, he did not let them withdraw.
That was Adam Preston from Trafalgar Way, reading the recollections of Georges-Marc Nicolas Letin. Stay tuned to the Napoleonicist, where more instalments of the Voices from the Battlefield series will be released throughout the day.